Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of All Around Hockey, the YouTube channel for the All Around Hockey fan. So today we're going to continue our series looking at all 32 NHL teams and previewing them for the upcoming 2026-2027 season. Our last video was on the Columbus Blue Jackets, and this video is now going to be on the Dallas Stars, a team that has a lot of interesting rumors going around right now. We're going to obviously talk about the whole Jason Robertson situation and what could possibly be fixed there. And then we're also going to go into, is there any other moves this team could possibly make? Dylan Larkin, is that still a possibility for Dallas? We'll look at the trade options they have there. But right now we're going to use our good friend Puckpedia here to look over all the contracts that they have and look at the depth chart and see what they have listed for the lineups as they are currently constructed. They have Jason Robertson there on the first unit. He's now signed for $12 million going into this upcoming season. Wyatt Johnson and Mikko Rantanen there rounds out that first unit, really star-studded first unit there. Sam Steele with Roope Hintz and Tyler Seguin. He's on the last year of that big contract that was given to him a few years back at 9.85. So that'll be a good thing to have off the books if you're the Dallas Stars here. Jamie Benn re-signed back with them at an $850,000 cap hit. So he took the minimum as he possibly could to help them cap construction wise. Matthew Duchene, there is the third line center. And then you got Hirko in there. In the back, Fasca and Colin Blackwell there rounds out the fourth unit for the Dallas Stars. Esa Lindell there on defense with Miro Heiskanen, Thomas Harley, and Niels Lundqvist, Liam Bichelle, and Tyler Myers is a pretty solid six unit there for them. And then they brought in Kivi Ranta as well. So not too bad a pickup for them depth-wise. And then Jake Ottinger continues to be the number one option with Casey DeSmith as a solid backup option there in goal for them. And so we're going to go over here to Hockey Reference and look over what Dallas did last season. As you can see, they ended with a 50, 20, and 12 record, 112 points, finished second in the Central Division, only behind the President Trophy winning Colorado Avalanche. I think they had the third best record total in the National Hockey League behind Colorado and Carolina. You look right here, goals for, goals against, 273 goals for. And that's just finished ninth in the league, and then 222 goals against, which is second best in the league. So very good defensive year for them under Glenn Goldson there as he returned back to Dallas. Unfortunately, they weren't able to make it very far in the playoffs. They were limited in 6 games by the Minnesota Wild, which is going to be another team they're going to be competing against going into this upcoming season, especially in that very tough Central Division. I head down here, look at the stats they have for this last season. Look who led the way, obviously, is Jason Robertson, 45 goals, 51 assists for 96 points. Another fantastic year for Jason as he's still looking for that big payday. He got the $12 million now. We'll see what they can do next. Wyatt Johnson continues to be one of the best young studs in the National Hockey League. 45 goals, 41 assists for 86 points. Mikko Rantanen there, third on the team with 22 goals, 55 assists, 77 points. Another great, fantastic year from those three core guys there on the forward units. Miro Heiskanen, only 26 years old, had 9 goals, 54 assists for 63 points. Is just a solid number one defenseman as you could get. Matt Duchene still continues to be pretty productive. There were 45 points in 57 games. Roope Hintz had 44 points in 53 games. He was injured there towards the end of the season and missed the playoffs, and that was a pretty big blow for them. Probably a big reason why they lost to Minnesota in that first round. Maverick Bourque is not with the team anymore. He got traded to the Nashville Predators earlier in the offseason. That's going to be a huge blow to lose that production there. He had 20 goals, 21 assists for 41 points, and he and Jason Robertson and I think it was Duchene was one of the better units in the National Hockey League this past season. So it's definitely going to hurt losing those guys. Losing Maverick Bourque. Jamie Benn continues just to be the captain, reliable there. 15 goals, 21 assists for 36 points in 60 games played. Thomas Harley, 6 goals, 30 assists, 36 points. Really solid defensive defender. And then Sam Steele even had some pretty good production there as a lower bottom 6 forward. Probably still maybe has to take on that top 6 role now that Maverick Bourque is gone. But you're also getting Tyler Seguin back, who was hurt for a lot of last season. If he can stay healthy, that could be a big help for them long term. That rounds out their top 10 in points. Looking at the goaltenders, they had obviously Jake Ottinger, still the number one guy there. 54 games started, 35 wins and 12 losses for an 899 save percentage and a 259 goals against average. He had 4 shutouts last season. Another pretty good year from Jake Ottinger. And continues to just be the number one option there in Dallas, and still has a lot more to prove. I still think too. Finished 8th in Vezina voting. So Casey DeSmith there had just a good backup option there for them. He had 15 wins and 8 losses for a .907 save percentage and a 243 goals against average. Just another solid backup there for when Ottinger needs a day off, and definitely provides good, is really solid goaltender back there. So the big new rumors going around with Dallas here, we're going to go over now to Puck GM and see if there's any other moves that could possibly be made for this team. And looking at the team constructed wise, you can see over here in the corner, their cap space, they're over the cap floor right now by just a little bit over $1 million. Now that Jason Robertson has been signed, so they might still have to make a move or two to kind of clear up that cap room for them to move forward. Guys who have to be moved could be like a Sam Steele, maybe a Radek Faska could be moved to clear up that cap space, but you're probably not getting much back for those guys. So maybe that could possibly be moved. They have been rumored to be on Dylan Larkin's trade list. However, now that Robertson is signed, obviously we're going to go over here to the NHL trade rumors in this article by Dave Littman a couple week ago now, just kind of still describing how there's a lot of animosity between Jason Robertson and the Dallas Stars, even after signing that $12 million contract. According to Dave Pagnotta, he can't sign an extension or is eligible till January 1st, but there's still a little animosity for both sides on this one, even with the contract getting done. Some question marks for the Stars side and some others within the organization. Well, why the heck couldn't we get this done a month ago on a 1-year, $12 million deal and then expand it from there? So definitely some animosity. That's according to Dave Pagnotta. That was the article from last week. And so that's still the main question. Could they still move Jason Robertson now that they got him signed up for the year? I don't know if they will at this point. My guess is they probably are going to just stick it out and hopefully they can re-sign him come January, which they are going to be clearing up a lot of cap space going into next season. Sam Steele's on the last year of his deal. Tyler Seguin's on the last year of his deal. Those are two bigger contracts that are on the last year of their deals. So obviously Liam Michelle's going to need to get traded, get his payday. He's the last year of his RFA status this year too. So they have a lot of guys, a lot of money coming off the books, especially with Tyler Seguin coming off the books next. So there's still a very good possibility that they could offer Jason Robertson something, and we'll go through here and see the contract options. Probably the extension he's been wanting is around 14 to 15 million. That's probably now increased with the whole saga going on with Macklin Celebrini getting the big contract. Connor Bedard got the big contract, and you kind of look at somebody like Kirill Kaprizov getting $17 million. You got to feel like a Jason Robertson would want something like that. However, is Dallas willing to do that? I don't know. Jim Nill is kind of set in what he wants for his price range for Jason. But there's still a possibility that if they cleared up enough cap space, they can attack this next offseason with Jason Robertson still locked up. So maybe they could bring him in on a 6-year deal at about, probably around Kirill Kaprizov money, around $17 million would be my guess. Something around there. Maybe he would want to do it a little bit less. But Jason is 27 years old. So this would take him to his age 33 season at $17 million for a bona fide 40 goal scorer every year. It's not that bad of a deal if they can get it done come January. I think that's going to be their big thing. Can they get Jason signed, or are they going to have to move him? And if they have to move him, there's still a possibility of a trade maybe with the Pittsburgh Penguins. We can look over at their options and see what they have. Obviously, the rumors with a possible 1-for-1 swap of Robertson for Dylan Larkin is still out there and a possibility. I don't know if that's what happens now or not. It really, I guess, depends on what the mood is for everybody right now. There could definitely still be a move there for where Jason does get traded. You kind of look over here at what Pittsburgh has in terms of what they could deal. And we can also kind of go over here and look at what they have in terms of cap space as we can go over to their Puckpedia page and see what they have in terms of cap space. They have $13 million in cap space, so they can still take on Jason's contract. Obviously, they brought in Nick Robertson this past offseason. Would a trade have to start with the Ben Kindle? Maybe, but they would like to not have to trade that especially for a guy who's only signed for one more year, unless they're guaranteed to sign him to a bigger contract. They got Bill Zonin was a first round pick a couple years ago. Maybe you could take on a ready now NHL player like a Rickard Rakell in this type of a deal. Maybe pick like a Will Horcroft in a type of trade like that. It all really depends on what's the possibilities that could still happen come like the trade deadline if this whole Jason Robertson saga has kind of been put to bed for now, which there hasn't been a whole lot of rumors of a trade since he signed that contract. But just still seems like there's a lot of unfinished business. So I definitely think in terms of a trade with a Pittsburgh, you could still see something like that. I think the only way Jason Robertson gets traded now at this point was it maybe be for a Dylan Larkin 1-for-1 swap. But obviously that depends on when the Red Wings get their general manager, which is according to this video, they still do not have their general manager in place. They still have Steve Yzerman making some moves here and there, or at least still talking about possibly making moves as he still continues to be in that role. But, I probably Pittsburgh would want to hold on to a Ben Kindle, but maybe you could get like a Will Harcroft or Rickard Rakell and that type of a deal to get another solid scoring and maybe even a Rooker McGroarty. That might be a decent pickup for them. So there's still a possibility, and they check out their draft capital, see what Pittsburgh has in terms of draft capital. They have their first, they have 2 seconds, they have a third from New Jersey, so there's still a possibility that there could be a trade there. I think that would probably be, if a contract is not signed, something that could happen. But obviously, if the best thing for the Stars right now is they got him locked up for this season, and they can still sign to a contract. They can still sign Robert Robo to a contract extension in January. So there's still time to mend the fences and get everything back to normal. And especially with Tyler Seguin's contract coming off the books, there's going to be a lot more cap space. They could definitely up the ante on those contracts and still get him signed to maybe around what he would want, which is probably around Kirill Kaprizov type money. Maybe even more now that he's seen guys like Macklin Celebrini signed for the contract that he got. So we'll kind of cancel this trade out here and look at a different move here. So we'll switch from Pittsburgh to go over to the Detroit Red Wings. Again, you kind of looking at the cap space they have right now. It's just $1 million over the cap floor. And Dylan's contract comes in around 8.7 in terms of a deal there. Which we can go down and find him 8.7 for the next 5 years, which is still a fantastic contract. Which is a reason why the Detroit Red Wings are asking for such a big haul in this, is they've already paid the exorbitant amount of money. They front loaded this deal, and so they definitely want to get something more in this type of a trade for a Dylan Larkin. So I think you're still looking at a bigger price than most people want to think. Some people are like, well, he's just going to be a second line center. He may be a second line center with Dallas at the end of the day, but there's a reason why Steve Yzerman still asks for Wyatt Johnson in that deal. Obviously a lot of people said that was crazy, but that's still probably going to be the price. That's still going to have to be probably not Wyatt Johnson at this point, but maybe it is a Jason Robertson 1-for-1 swap. I'm kind of looking at what they have now. I think Liam Bichelle would make a lot of sense for Detroit. They'd be really interested in him. I still think they would really want a center back in return. Um, so and I don't know if Dallas would have to move salary to make this work. They can't just add him and be even more over the cap space at this point. So they would have to move some sort of salary to make this work. Maybe they could move a Thomas Harley if they wanted to move a Thomas Harley in this type of a trade, but then you're kind of shorting yourself on the back end and kind of hurting yourself there than you are kind of making the difference at the front end. And like I said before in one of my videos previously, that I think Thomas Harley was only really available for one person, and that was Zach Werenski. So I don't think I think they were willing to trade Harley in that deal to bring in somebody who's better than him and Zach Werenski, and obviously that ended up being vetoed. And I think Maverick Bork was even in that deal too. So Harley's got 8 years left on that deal. So in terms of that type of a move, I just don't know if that can happen. Another person they could possibly try to move is Rope Hintz. His contract is very similar to Dylan's, though, at the end of the day. So you're not really making much of a difference long term there. So in terms of a trade with the Detroit Red Wings for Dylan Larkin, it would really have to finagle a lot of cap room to make this work, unless they are trading a Robertson straight up 1-for-1 for him, which still could obviously happen. But I think at this point you probably want to keep your franchise goal leader in points from this past season on your team and still make a run for the cup, because they still have a pretty good cup running, still good team to make a run for the cup, and they don't necessarily need a Dylan Larkin, in my opinion, because you already got 2 really solid centers, even 3 really solid centers with Matt Duchene there still too. So Rope Hintz, unless you're moving him in this deal, you have your second line center in Rope, and then you got Wyatt Johnson still as your first line center. Personally, I think they're still running back with this group. Maybe another possibility they could possibly look at doing is going over to moving on from a Stan Steele, a team that may be interested in that. This is just me spitballing some kind of a deal. But maybe they could move Steele's contract over to the Islanders for like a pretty good defensive prospect. Somebody who I like, who's going to develop into a good defenseman. He is a Cal Odelius, and then maybe like a 5th-round pick. It gets you Sam Steele's contract off your books, and puts you above the cap for them at this point. Just barely. Even happened where you may have to bring like a bit of Emil Hemming. He had a really big year in the OHL last year. He's one of their top prospects. Had a big year with the Barrie Colts. Cameron Schmidt is another player they could look to sign. He had 100 points last year. So it really comes down to what they can do at this point. I think the team, though, is mostly set. You could probably move Duchene up now to that first unit, and have a Radek Faska, or move a Justin Herco in there over to that third line center role, and have an R2 Hardy there be there, or Oscar Bach could come up there, and then you could bring up another player from the minors to come in and be that type of a player. You got Cameron Hughes there. He's an older player, but Matthew Sminoff had a big year down there in the OHL, so maybe he comes up and could be a difference maker, get a chance. See, he had 50 points in 72 games, which is a pretty good season from him. This obviously puts him just a little bit over the cap again, but they could probably construct that to make it work long term. But this could definitely be something they could do in terms of a team. If they wanted to clear up that cap space, they obviously could still keep a Sam Steele and make a run with it and finagle their way to $1 million deficit again. Could Tyler Seguin end up going on injured reserve again? We'll have to see. But but in terms of what they have now, I think this is a pretty solid team to make a run for it again. They have Jason Robertson saga is going to be continuing to be interesting as the season continues. They got him for 1 year at $12 million, and they can't sign him until January, so they have time to talk extensions eventually, and like I said, mend the fences a little bit to get back to that point where they'll still be okay in terms of what they can do cap wise. So you kind of look at the team they have right now; it's a pretty solid unit. I would probably, like I said, have Duchene there. Maybe you can have Seguin there and move Justin up there to that first unit since he had a decent season with them last year, or even switch this around and have Mikko, and you probably want to split these three up to have a little bit more line construction at the end of the day. So we'll have to wait and see. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If what do you think Dallas will do? Do you think Jason Robertson's going to sign an extension with them? Do you think that he's going to have to get traded come the deadline? Do you think they still have the assets? Put down in the comments below what you would trade in a Dylan Larkin possible trade. Love to hear what you guys think in those type of moves. But I think as far as now, I think the only thing they could do to make that type of a trade would be to trade a Harley or to trade a Hintz. And Hintz has no move clause at this point, so he would be hard to move in that type of a trade. I doubt he would just accept a trade to Detroit at the end of the day. So I don't know if there's a trade there for Dylan Larkin or not, but let me know if you guys think that that's different. Love to hear from you guys. Hope you guys been enjoying this series. I know I've been enjoying making them. Our next episode is going to be on the Detroit Red Wings. That's going to be a very interesting one. Obviously, I'm a Red Wings fan at heart, so at the end of the day, so that's going to be a very personal one for me. And I know some people might be more interested in that too. All the moves that they could possibly still make. Who's the general manager going to be? What are those options? Also, is Dylan Larkin going to be on the team come the start of the season? We're going to go over all that when we do the next video on the Detroit Red Wings. Hope you guys enjoy this one on the Dallas Stars, though. I think they have a very good chance to compete again in the Central Division. It's probably still that three-headed monster of them in Colorado and Minnesota to see who wins that division. This is a team that could definitely still make some noise come the postseason, especially if Jason Robertson, they can get him signed to an extension. That's going to be the biggest thing for them, I think, throughout this season. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you like this video, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to All Around Hockey, the YouTube channel for the All Around Hockey fan. And I'll catch you guys in the next video, all right?